Hi people!
Hello everyone!
We're back and the visual listeners will be able to tell that we are back to our location. For people who are on audio platforms, I'm so sorry. We're back to the original location where we used to shoot. We got the room painted, we changed the backdrop, maybe check out the reels or YouTube for a better picture.
Understanding of it.
So today we're going to discuss, so we thought of discussing breakups, things people experience after breakups, because there are few people around me who are going through breakups, and if you have somebody going through a breakup, or if you are going through a breakup, just know that we're here. Even if there wouldn't have been research backing up the theory, we would have still been here. But then now, since there is theory,
there is psychology, and we thought we'll share it with you, so that you guys can also get the insights, and we really hope it's helpful for people who might need some psychological and factual or a practical approach
to it. Yes, so, I did not know there is a scientific term to it. But then I tell a lot of my friends, I used to tell a lot of my friends that love or falling out of love, breakup, is not something that happens immediately. It's a gradual build-up of things that leads to you falling for somebody, and that leads you to falling out of love or breaking up. The breakup, the actual breakup, before it happens in
the moment, it's not a
momentary thing. It happens in your head before it happens in your life. There is theory called the uncoupling theory. In layman language, the theory states that there is a turning point in the dynamics of a relationship that lead to a breakup. The turning point meaning that there is a precise moment that leads to a breakup.
There are little things that are filling up your cup. Eventually, when you touch the rim and if it spills out, there's another little thing that is added. Eventually, that is the moment.
Butterfly effect. We should do an episode on that also. We should.
Idea for another episode.
You blame one incident, but then there are so many things that add up to that one incident that lead you to decide to break up. Generally, they say that there are two parties. In a relationship, there are two parties. The one party is aware that the relationship has sort of ended.
And it's derailing. There's awareness.
It just gets dragged on for a little longer, even after that awareness sets in. There is an initiator and a respondent. So the initiator is the person who gets this awareness early on, as compared to the respondent. So the initiator initiates the breakup and the respondent responds to the breakup.
Correct.
The misery that one feels after a breakup, they feel that misery while they are in the relationship. People say that it's easier for them because at least, even though they are in pain, at least they're not alone. But then
I beg to differ.
My theory is that it's painful either ways, even if you are the responder or you're the initiator, because for an initiator it would get very lonely knowing that you have a partner, so-called partner, but then you cannot rely on that partner.
And then you're also aware that you have the realization of the entire situation,
and you have to be the bad guy as
the person to initiate the process. It is hurtful anyway. Any sort of relationship that you are in, it is going to be hurtful for both the parties.
It is.
But the one initiating, I'm not saying the respondent will be less hurt. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that their misery, like Yasha says, begins
after the breakup,
and then they eventually cope up or move on to it. Whereas the initiator, somehow their misery
begins while they are
they're still in touch with that person.
What happens after a breakup is that there is a redefinition that happens of the self. No matter which party you are, there is a redefinition that will happen. So you've seen people get haircuts or hair colors, or they go to the gym and then transform. There is a change that comes. I mean, you're sort of trying to find your
self.
You're trying to redefine where your ex-partner stands, and you're trying to redefine yourself in the social construct as well. There is this image. So suppose there is somebody who's in a long-term relationship, and then they have to part ways. There are people who might question, there are people who might not question, but then generally there are some very vocal or non-vocal question as to if they had such a long relationship, what led to their breakup. This pressure that we put in a relationship, that oh my god, that we've been together for so long, I've known this individual for so long, I cannot imagine myself without them. This particular thought process is very common in India, at least in my mother's mummy papa ka generation. This is a very common thought process that says that I mean, इतना टाइम अब बिता लिया है, अब कितना ही टाइम रह गया है, अब तो इनके साथ ही टाइम काटना है.
Usually it's said very casually, but that is not true. What we need to understand, and this is irrespective of whichever generation you are from, you need to understand कितना टाइम काटना है और कैसे. I am smiling. I'm sorry to cut you short. Yasha just took a sip of a detox tea that she was trying to get me to drink. I had a sip, and now she had a sip, and she was like, coming back to the topic.
It's not very yummy. Just
coming
saying.
Back to the topic. Irrespective of whichever generation you are from, you need to realize.
So according to the research also, and everything else also, it says that when you go through a breakup, there are 3 things that you actually feel. There are withdrawal symptoms that you feel. There is you feel sort of identity
out of place.
You feel identity crisis, and then you grieve. These are 3 things that you feel, and all the 3 things, I mean, if you've grieved, if you've gone through a loss of a loved one, you know that it is not an easy process. Why they say that you go through withdrawal symptoms is because they say that when you go through a breakup, I mean, when you're in a relationship, there are a lot of emotions. I mean, there are sort of a lot of hormones that there is oxytocin, there is dopamine that you feel when you're in love. All feel good factor जो आता है जिन hormones से, you feel all those. So when that is taken away because you 2 people decided to break up, not be together, right? So both parties will sort of feel withdrawal symptoms initially, yes. Right? People very casually say that she or he is a very different human being when they're in a relationship. Then it is true, because when you are in a relationship, you are trying to find out who you are as an individual while you are in a relationship, while you're in a romantic relationship. Because when you are in a romantic relationship, you're trying to find out new things about the other person. You're trying to put the best foot forward.
Common interests,
and
things
then
you like, things they like.
Yeah, and then you plan dates, and you
little things, watching movie together, going on
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, so you are sort of trying to step out of your comfort zone to discover the other individual and rediscover yourself.
Yeah.
Right? That feeling and that expansion is good. So when you do break up, physiologically, psychologically, you feel all these things. Right. I don't know if you've heard somebody say, they say that I broke up and physically I could feel the hurt.
Yeah.
And if you ask them to pinpoint as to where they felt hurt, they might or might not be able to do it,
depending upon how
aware
they feel
with themselves or how aware they are. But in general, it's true.
It's true. I searched it. Of course it's true, because research.
You actually feel physical pain. There was this, while I was doing research for this, there was this individual they had a heart attack because somebody broke up with them.
And I also read it that apart from having pain in your, there are people, they feel pain in different, like sometimes you get like there's a weird feeling in your stomach, or there is
you feel clenched, your heart,
your heart feels clenched, or you're not able to, like your throat is heavy, or
it's a lot of overwhelm of emotions.
It's a lot of overwhelm and a lot of emotions, and it's not necessary that the pain you feel is only in your heart. It can also be felt in other parts of your body.
Yeah, I mean, people who are going through a breakup, they say that they feel triggered by tiny things in the relationship. For both of them, roses were especially just trigger all the memories that they have related to roses. Remember, we did an episode wherein I told you that when I dedicate a song to somebody, I don't do it very easily, because if I do that, it sort of gets ruined. I cannot think of that song without thinking about that individual.
Right.
I think part of me was partially aware कि ऐसा होगा, which is why I was not dedicating songs. But then when I saw the reasoning to it, and when I saw that there are things that people feel because you have memories that
of a song related to them, or memories of an incident, or memories of, like, there are people you only go on coffee dates with, or there are people you only go on movie dates with.
Yeah.
So
there are, I mean, for somebody, I mean, a relationship could be special because they went to their first trip with that individual.
Right.
I also why there is identity crisis. People feel identity crisis is because we tend to sort of imagine ourselves with the individual.
Your identity is revolving around that individual.
I won't say revolving around. I think
not revolving around during the
you sort of
adjust accordingly.
In that equation.
In
that equation, you start equating them, their priorities, their lifestyle, their well-being.
You count them with all your decisions.
Along, yes, you sort of start counting them along with your decision, which is normal and which is how it should be in a relationship. I mean, ideally, in a relationship, that is how it's supposed to be. But what happens is that if you do end up parting ways, what do you do of all the plans that you've made
in your head
with that particular individual?
It's it's unfortunate, of course, for
both parties,
individuals, because there will be pain post that, because it is only human to plan ahead. Like, maybe there's a concert you wanted to go to, or maybe there is a trip that you have been planning to go to.
Yes.
So those plans, your emotional, it's not just that your emotional stability is gone, like you need to rediscover yourself, your identity, but then also your future plans, why future seems uncertain, or why it gives you anxiety about the future, is because you have had made previous plans. Maybe a friend's wedding that you have been waiting to go to, or a international trip that you have been planning.
International trip. I think I read about this lady. She maintains a blog. She was dating somebody then before the pandemic, and I think pandemic sort of forced her to refocus and recenter herself, and her priorities shifted, and somehow the relationship that she had previously stopped working out for both the individuals. So both decided to part ways. But what they forgot was that they had planned a trip together. So when COVID restrictions were lifted, they were forced to take a trip. They were broken up, but they took the trip together.
This is also something, like, I don't know if this is inclusive in our topic or not, but this is something that it's a debatable issue. But sometimes even post breakup, like you stay friends, you don't stay friends, I am somehow, it is completely dependent upon what kind of note you're ending on with, and if both the parties still want to stay in touch, and if they have the capacity to still treat each other human and be friends, not be friends, be cordial, not be cordial. If you think that it's like too much emotional baggage then you don't do it. Then you do it if you think it might be something that you might be interested in the future, then you at least communicate that. And if you think that you can still be friends and one party thinks you can still be friends, the other party thinks they either need time or there is a no. Whatever the situation is, I want key communication should be there, communication should be clear, and you should
mutually arrive to a decision.
Yes, because all relationships are special. You can still keep that. You need to understand what you had is gone, but you can still create something out of it if you still want that beautiful human being to be in the relationship. Unfortunately, if the relationship is not as beautiful, if it is toxic or abusive or there's infidelity, then that's another case.
Either way, it is entirely up to the individual, the parties that are involved in the relationship. But what I feel is that for some time after the breakup, you should take time, take a break from each other, rediscover yourself, so-called, find your balance, find your center again. When you've laid a foundation for yourself, then maybe you can decide whether you want to stay friends with that individual or not.
Yes.
I also feel that there is this phase of denial also that happens. So that denial can look very different for a lot of individuals, in the sense that, say, suppose two people break up, one could, if I keep talking to this individual, maybe they realize that they still have feelings for me and they come back to me. So you sort of drag on and torture yourself
and
keep on talking to that individual. In some cases,
holding hopes is not bad, but you don't need to drag yourself emotionally.
But in some cases, I've seen that work. In some cases, I've seen that turn out horribly as well. If you suggest a breakup, the other individual just outright rejects that, no, we cannot break up because we've been together for X amount of time, and no, this is not feasible for me.
In this case, either you are making efforts to make it up to the other person. If you're not making efforts and if you don't want to change the equation because you have been together for n number of years, then both of you are suffering, both of you are not able to grow as a human being also.
Also, yes. I've also seen people who make very hasty decisions. So I told you that you feel withdrawal symptoms, right? So when you do go through withdrawal, now what happens is that have you seen people, one of the partner starts to date almost
immediately and the other
almost immediately, but the other one is taking time. So the person who starts to date immediately is being looked down upon. I'm not defending anybody, any party here, but what I'm saying is that why that happens is because they are feeling that withdrawal, and withdrawal generally, in a general term, if you withdraw something out of somewhere, there is empty space, right? So what happens is that they start dating other people and they try to sort of fill that gap of their partner with other people.
Start involving another person in an equation, and then it's not two people suffering anymore.
Then
there's another party as well. Then there is not two people involved. Then there's another party involved in as well.
Yes, but then you cannot. I mean, everybody tries to deal with their emotions in their own way, and maybe they need to deal with their emotions a certain way, because you feel things differently.
Every individual feels, and their processing time for all those things is different.
I mean, at the essence of it, in our head, you may or may not agree to it, it is crisis management, to say the least. You're trying to manage a crisis.
Technically, yes.
You're trying to manage a crisis, and sometimes you don't even know what to say, how to say, who to blame, because generally in a breakup, you are looking for somebody to blame, at least initially. And I'm not saying it is healthy or appreciated. I'm just saying that sort of becomes your response. Because you're feeling so many things and there is so much overwhelm that is happening. You will feel sad and you will feel bad. And you will feel that things are out of hand.
You don't feel okay. Like, I'm not someone I'm very good in managing crisis management for someone else, but if it comes to me, I don't think I'm very good I've made it a decision of mine that when I am in crisis, I'm not, or either I'm emotionally in crisis or I'm angry. Emotion wise, I'm not stable. I don't make decisions when I'm angry or when I'm emotional. I make decisions when I'm in a very sane frame of mind.
I mean, I also try because I feel things so deeply. I try to not make decisions, at least very life-changing decisions, when I'm feeling things very deeply, because you're not supposed to make decisions when you are in a very good frame, very happy. जब होते हैं ecstatic हो, तब भी you should not make a decision. और जब आप बहुत sad हो, like when you're very very sad, then also you should not make decisions. You should be, I think at peace is what I try to aim.
Correct.
Where you make decisions, and then you should have a very good reasoning to your decision. I've been told that if you are not able to define your reasoning in good 3 sentences and you're not able to make the other person understand in the first 3 sentences, then the reason is not good enough.
Because you don't have enough clarity. I think if you're not able to, it's not like as a compulsion nahi, you have to complete it in 3 sentences. What I think the gist of it is that generally you have a clarity in 3 sentences, and if you're like piling on excuses, so to speak, or for in my definition, if you're piling on excuses, that means that you need more perspective and clarity on the issue at hand. There's another thing that I wanted to address in that when breakups happen, when you are in a fragile emotional state, one, you should not take decisions, and secondly, why you should focus on improving yourself. It's necessary because it begins in your brain, in your thoughts. So if your thoughts are good, I'm not saying that you have to be the perfect human being, but if your thoughts are good, if your thoughts are kind, if you are like, before you are kind to someone else, you have to be kind to yourself. So if you're kind to yourself and you know there is a realization that things need to change, when you have that realization, things start falling into the correct place. So when there are breakups, irrespective, when once you're done with the breakup stage, the grief, the denial, the identity crisis, eventually what needs to, the next step, so to speak, is that you start working on yourself in all possible manners. And Yasha has something interesting.
So apparently there are consequences of a breakup, which we've discussed. There are negative effects to a breakup and there are positive effects to a breakup also. Apparently,
I'd like to do the positive ones because I think there's a lot of negativity in this world already.
But then we will also address this because they cannot exist without night. So the negative effects are the psychological distress symptoms, which apparently we've discussed.
Okay.
So there is a certain sense of avoidance that comes to, this could be a trigger to people. People can have self-deprecating thoughts, which could be, lead to depression, sleeplessness, even suicidal thoughts. If you do have suicidal thoughts, irrespective if you're going through a breakup or anything else that you are going through in your life,
it's an emergency.
Please ask for help. Please talk it out to somebody who will actually be able to help you.
Exactly. So seek professional help.
Please do that. So there are positive effects also of. So this says that evidence shows that even in a distressed situation, there are chances of positive emotions and growth. After a breakup, people end up growing spectacularly, and there are different attributes to this growth. So there is stress-related growth. There are people who respond to stress very positively. You've heard of people who they say that this individual performs very well under stress. So these type of, if you are that category of an individual, what happens is that because there is so much stress that has been induced into your life because of a breakup, your performance will increase because you have this emotional stress that you're dealing with. There are chances of improved future relationships if you learn from you break
the
up.
Previous ones, yeah.
You break up and you don't let that trauma linger on with you, and you learn from your mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and then
things they could have done better. At least you could have done better, and you should learn from it and grow from
there, and then raise the benchmark if at all you need to raise the benchmark.
And raising the benchmark is the necessity. Why? Because I think we are humans. We all crave human connections. even any sort of 100% introvert would also eventually crave human
certain
connection. So
to
you
a
have
certain
to,
extent, yes.
if you want to fulfill, or if you have the mindset of, I think you should have the mindset of, living the life to its fullest. So if you have to reach this level, you take baby steps. So you're learning, and then to reach the perfect sweet spot of relationships, I think we should learn from all our relationships, the negatives and the positives.
You hold on to the good things that you have learned from the relationships, because this is me, this could be entirely me, but I feel that there is a lot of emphasis that has been laid into you being the first of some individual. I was telling you the other day also when we did the episode on firsts. The individual you are, or the individual somebody is a sum total of all the experiences that they had, right?
Yes.
Both positive and negative. So even if they've had bad relationships, I'm assuming they've learned something
from
good,
that bad relationship, but something good from that bad relationship
as well. So it's not all bad to have a relationship.
It's not all bad. If you're in a relationship with a person, I think there is something about that person that you adore and you love. Eventually, if it works out, or if it doesn't work out, or if you are someone who's not willing to give up, then at least if you want to carry on with that one individual, if you have that kind of mindset, then you constantly make different efforts and try to make it up to them. If you want to maintain that relationship, then also growth and learning constantly needs to happen. Usi mindset ke sath you cannot spend your entire life, because you are also evolving from a toddler to a teenager to an adult and so on.
Yes, the final positive thing is that you feel feelings of relief and freedom. If at all you decide to part ways, there was something very fundamental that was not working. Maybe it was your mindset, maybe it was your conversations, maybe it was your attachment styles, whatever it was.
It could be anything.
We should not disregard.
This is very important.
Somebody's reasoning to break up. It's very sad that people say that if you are with somebody, you are allowed to break up with that individual only if there is
society's norms according
if
to
there is
societal
infidelity,
norms.
like either one partner or the other cheats on them, or there is abuse, as in there is physical abuse. Otherwise, you're not allowed to leave a relationship, which I feel is
I don't
painful.
Agree with this. Relationship is existing because there are two-way efforts. If efforts are eliminated from one side and the other person wants to, you cannot never give a proof that this is the proof that the person is not giving efforts. You don't have the proof for efforts. You can never have a proof for efforts. Instead of dragging yourself and them in this, what you need to understand is there are tangible things and there are intangible things. Agar intangible hai ya tangible hai, everything does not need a proof. You don't give a proof of being in pain.
What I'm saying is that the reasoning that the society expects for you to part ways
geographically, the reasonings are different. So I think the two individuals should be the ones who should decide
but
that, and not the geography or cultural background.
What happens is that a lot of people discount efforts when it comes to breakups also. Because we're talking about breakups, we're not saying that you should discount efforts and you should not put in efforts to maintain that relationship, or you should not put in efforts to build a relationship, or you should not put in efforts after you've had a bad day in a relationship. What we're saying is that you should know when to draw the line. When you break up, there are so many things that you feel emotionally, physiologically, and you should take it seriously. Have self-care. I also read, I think it was an article, a lot of people complain that they don't have true love anymore after reading that article, because there was research in that article that it said that the first 6 to 8 months of a relationship tell you a lot about how your future is going to be. On the counter side, what I would say is that if you feel that you need to test your partner by being excessively mean or withdraw, distance yourself from the partner.
Life is testing itself. Like you don't need to put the further test and make it
पर
complicated.
अब बहुत लोग करते हैं मतलब
Like
कि
don't do. Like I would say that's mean. Don't do that.
but people do that, but that is what I'm saying. So if in the first few months or if in the first year of your relationship you see all these things, don't ignore them, because it is true when they say that all the red flags that you ignored become the reasons of the breakup when you do break up. So just because you have different upbringings, you will have different set of priorities. Because you have different set of priorities, there could be things that are important to you that might not be important to
them.
me, right?
Yeah.
Now if we are going to form a relationship together, you and I both need to come on a common ground,
There needs to be an understanding.
and that common ground has to be separate from your ground and
their
my ground.
Yeah.
It has to be a
Mutual ground.
third ground altogether, wherein you come with your 100% and I come with my 100%.
And both the individuals are comfortable with the understanding of whatever that differences are due to different cultural backgrounds or different
Whatever
upbringings.
background.
There's another thing I heard from Sadhguru, that whenever you break up, it's difficult, but he recommended, it is recommended that you are graceful while you're breaking up. Not because it's fancy term. If you're not graceful when you were vulnerable, it will cause you more pain. So try to be kind, try to be graceful, not because it will look good or because you should do it out of goodness of your heart for others, but you should do it out of goodness for yourself also.
Alright, I think we've discussed enough on breakups.
Yeah.
And I hope if you are breaking up, very warm virtual hugs from our side, and I hope you cope up and
Take your time, take things slow, and try not to avoid it, and try to find a direction or a way where acceptance would come easy. Like the first step would be acceptance. Once you accept the entirety of the situation, I think then the further steps will follow.
take one step
steps.
a time, one day at a time,
Yeah.
and you'll be as good as new.
Yeah. And if you feel otherwise, and if there is no scope of improvement, then please seek professional help.
Yes, please do that. We're a big advocate of that, and if at all you need, I think there are a lot of online platforms also, but then if you could probably go to see somebody in person, that would be beneficial, because I think nothing trumps human connection.
Any loved one, if you go to a loved one and tell them that you're not feeling good, just go and talk to anyone, a friend, a sibling.
Start small.
Yeah, start small, but start somewhere, because if you're not feeling okay by yourself and you need external help, it's completely alright.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think on that note, we end today's episode. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to us.
Yes. Bye.